I wanted to say a little bit more about measles. I've done a couple of videos on it, but this measles outbreak that we've been having basically the entire year continues. And right now, its epicenter is in South Carolina, where we have a couple hundred people in quarantine. We've had schools completely disrupted by the virus and over 100 confirmed cases, all almost entirely in unvaccinated individuals. The point I wanted to make is that during COVID, I was one of the people that was talking a lot about how to handle schools appropriately, and I was against kind of the blanket closures of schools because I thought that there were ways to do this outside of closing schools. And what's happening now is sort of paradoxical that you have schools closing in South Carolina because of measles cases because people are not vaccinated. So I don't know why people aren't up in arms about the schools closing in South Carolina because of measles, because there's a simple solution to that, and that is to have the children vaccinated. But you don't see people saying schools are closed because of measles or kids are in quarantine because of measles. And I think that that really speaks to what's going on here, that this is not kind of a rational phenomenon. So it's not going to be consistent. The same is true even for influenza. So, for example, in New York City, they have very high rates of influenza right now, and some schools have had to take a pause because of the cases there. And you can minimize the impact of influenza on a school by having higher vaccination rates. But again, none of that kind of acrimony. So it seems to me a little bit inconsistent with how people are looking at the impact of certain infectious diseases on children and on their schooling. And I think that really goes to the fact that this is not being looked at or thought of as a scientific or medical problem, but all of these things are looked at politically now. And whatever tribe you're on, that's going to kind of condition how you view something. And nobody's actually looking at these things objectively and saying, well, that doesn't make sense, or this makes sense, or this is inconsistent, because they're not really interested in the consistency of it. And I think that's going to be something that is hard to deal with as the control of infectious disease becomes something that is seen only through a tribal lens.